Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this extraordinary meeting of Wingecarribee Shire Council on Tuesday, the 7th of November. If I ask you to turn off your mobiles, if anyone's got them on, thanks, or turn them on to silent. Staff too. Acknowledgement of country. Wingecarribee Shire Council acknowledge the Gundungurra and Tharawal people as the traditional custodians of this land we now call Wingecarribee Shire. I pay my respects to elders both past, present and emerging. I'd also like to extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders present here or watching today. Statement of ethical obligations. As Administrator, I'll undertake the duties of the Office of Administrator in the best interests of the people of the Wingecarribee Shire Council area and act faithfully and impartially in carrying out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment. I am committed to the declarations of conflicts of interest in relation to items listed for consideration on the agenda or which are considered at this meeting in accordance with the Code of Conduct and the Code of Meeting Practice. Obviously, there are no apologies. General Manager, declarations of interest?
Yes. Yes, thank you, Mr. May. In relation to item 6.2, I have a declaration of interest form from yourself, a non-pecuniary, non-significant, and the reason for this is, and I'll quote, I made a moderate donation to the project following attendance at a Berrima breakfast event. So I table this. Thank you.
Thanks for that. The first item listed for consideration on the business paper is item 6.1, Project 24, Contract Negotiations Report. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. May. So the Manager of Waste and Resource Management, Mr. McAllister, will speak to this item, noting that today's extraordinary meeting was scheduled to enable the 4 councils involved in this project to consider a major tender at the one time simultaneously, albeit on Melbourne Cup Day. But we appreciate the flexibility, Mr. McAllister.
Before Mr. McAllister, so what you're saying is you didn't pick the date?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. Mr. May, the purpose of this report is to advise Council on the outcomes of the negotiation for the receival, processing and disposal services for municipal waste and resource streams and to seek approval to enter into contract arrangements as per the recommendations. Camden, Campbelltown City, Wallandilly Shire and Wingecarribee Shire have undertaken a joint procurement process known as Project 24. As the current contract for the disposal and processing services is due to expire on the 31st of May 2024. Following the extraordinary meeting of Council on the 11th of October 2022, where it was resolved to decline all tenders and enter into negotiations with the nominated persons, the project team have undertaken these negotiations in line with the negotiation strategy and the endorsed negotiation protocol. The negotiation report notes that the offers from Veolia present the most suitable and value for money services together with the mixed waste disposal services offered by Cleanaway. The location of the Veolia Spring Farm facility was central in considerations and offered the most suitable solution for the region. In summary, mixed waste is to be received by the Spring Farm facility and transferred by Veolia to be disposed of at the Lucas Heights landfill operated by Cleanaway, with the disposal of the waste to be covered by a separate contract between Council and Cleanaway. Clean-up waste is to be received at the Spring Farm facility and transferred by Veolia to be processed for resource recovery at a facility at Cecil Hills. This option offers over 50% of recovery from those materials and has the potential to impact our percentage of waste diverted from landfill by 3 to 5%. Recycling is to be received and processed at Spring Farm by Veolia. This arrangement includes the councils and Veolia sharing the risks on the revenue for the output commodities such as paper, metal and plastics. Garden Organics is to be received at the Spring Farm facility and transferred by Veolia to be processed by Australian Native Landscapes from their facility in Badgerys Creek. Both agreements are for the term of 5 years and 1 month. The contract term will allow the industry time to respond to the current infrastructure challenges and allow the organics industry to upscale the processing capacity to transition to FOGO and to meet the capacity demand in line with New South Wales Government's waste strategy. This will also allow Council to re-tender for services after New South Wales plans for energy to waste infrastructure have been further developed, giving the industry more certainty. Now, the negotiated contract rates are significantly higher than our current contract arrangements, given that they were tendered over 10 years ago, but are reflective of the current market rates and uncertainty in the waste facility and resource recovery commodity markets, noting that the final proposed contract rates are in line with what was originally tendered. For transparency, the impact to the waste stream service costs are: mixed waste has increased by 66%, the bulky cleanup waste has increased by 6%, recycling has increased by 137%, and the organics has increased by 235%. The impact is an increase of $2.35 million in the processing and disposal of the collected waste, and with this increase to be incorporated into the long-term financial plan, which will allow a smoothed increase to the domestic waste management charge for residents. Thank you.
Thank you. I've carefully read the negotiation report, which I see is also signed off by the probity advisor. This has been a very complex, obviously, negotiation. And I must say I'm a lot more comfortable now we're talking about 5 years, not 10 years, because of the or what's happening in the marketplace, and this report reflects that, and also the council's obligations under the 2041, in effect, FOGO stuff. The figures you quote can be seen to be alarming, but I think residents should read the cushioning you'll be able to do through the long-term financial planning scenarios that are presented in the public report. But this doesn't at all reflect what might happen when the council goes to tender for domestic garbage, but that's a different question. But look, I congratulate everybody who's been involved in this. Again, I say I'm a lot happier that it's 5, not 10 years, because I think it's just going mad what's happening in this space and the demands of the government. And I think you see it reflected in some councils in metropolitan Sydney, residents' reaction to potentially what could happen. But look, I would move the officer's recommendation as outlined on page 6 and 7 of the business paper, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and declare that carried. The next item is 6.2, the Wingecarribee Women Writers. As the General Manager has noted, I declared a significant non-pecuniary interest in this matter. I just think it was appropriate. General Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. May. Before we move to item 6.2, be remiss of me not to acknowledge the work of Mr. McAllister and Mr. Kuzmanowski. The Project 24 has been a project that's been going on for a number of years, and as you noted, a very complex project. So I just wish to acknowledge their work and their attendance at the PCG meetings. And the final one that the General Managers attended 2 weeks ago, I believe, there was unanimous acknowledgement of all of the managers of waste and the project officers involved over the period of time to get to where we have. So in relation to 6.2, I wish to table a submission received from Mr. Julian Brophy, and we'll also provide that with the minutes in relation to that. Yep. Mr. Robinson will speak to this item. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. Mr. May, the Wingecarribee Women's Riders have submitted a proposal to Council for the installation of a monument within Berrima Marketplace Park to celebrate the life and contribution of local author Charlotte Atkinson. Like all works, the proposal will be subject to a development approval pathway. However, the proposed monument also requires a separate approval from Council under Council's public memorial policy and guidelines. And so it's therefore the purpose of this report to seek this public memorial policy and guidelines approval. The development approval considerations of the proposed work will then be managed through existing delegation, as is the standard process for all construction works. The proposal by the Wingecarribee Women's Riders has been assessed against the requirements of the public memorial guidelines and has been found to fulfil all requirements. These primarily being that the initial application was submitted with the required numbers of letters of support from community. In this case, that was from the Berrima Residents Association, the Berrima District Historical and Family History Society, and the Southern Highlands branch of the Australian Garden History Society. Charlotte Atkinson and the Atkinson family in general have sufficient connection to the proposed location. The proposal also does not conflict with the conservation management strategy of the reserve, and the proposed location of the monument is within the grassed area noted within the master plan of the park that is to be retained and enhanced for light and passive recreation opportunities. The Charlotte project aligns with the objectives of that area through enhancing the picnicking and social gathering activities of the space. With the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee no longer being in existence, endorsement of the artistic intent and merit of the project has instead been provided by a manager, Community Life and Libraries, and the Arts and Cultural Officer. Further consultation has also been undertaken on the proposal with the back half of October, from the 25th to the 31st of October. This was conducted through the council website and was promoted to adjacent landowners through letterbox drop and included within the weekly engagement newsletter. The response received was overwhelmingly positive, with 97% of the 199 respondents being positive to the proposal. It is worth noting that there were 3 submissions against the proposal, one stating that the funds could be better used in other means. However, the funds have been entirely fundraised, and so it is at the discretion of Wingecarribee Women's Riders how they see best fit to use the funds. And the other 2 submissions raising concerns with the development approval pathway and the appropriateness of the monument in general. In responding to those concerns, like most works within council reserves, the works will be subject to a Part 5 assessment process under the Transport and Infrastructure set, and the artistic merit of the project has been endorsed by council's subject matter experts, and the evidence shows overwhelmingly positive community sentiment towards the project. And so it's therefore recommended that council approve the Charlotte project under the public memorial and policy guidelines, and that upon consideration of the submissions received during the recent public consultation and the existing letters of support, that a further consultation period through a period of public exhibition is not required.
Thank you for that. Can I suggest that you ask Ms. Douglas later on for a copy of the submission she read from for the file? I just think it would be worthwhile having that on file at the council. As I said earlier, I have declared a non-pecuniary, non-significant interest in this matter. That does not preclude me from voting on the matter. However, I've taken the view that it would be more appropriate if I delegated this matter to the General Manager, as I can do under the Local Government Act. So I would move that pursuant to the provisions of Section 377 of the Local Government Act and acknowledging the Council's public memorials policy and guidelines, this matter be delegated to the General Manager for determination. And I declare that carried. General Manager, any further items? I declare the meeting closed.